My fiancée mocked my blue-collar job to impress her friends, so I played along, smiled, but what happened next shattered her world. It was just 3 years ago when I, Corey, first crossed paths with Brianna at my best friend Rashad's housewarming. The air buzzed with lively chatter, a blend of soulful R&B, and the comforting aroma of home-cooked food. My life back then, and still is, anchored in concrete reality. I'm a construction foreman, the man who leads crews building luxury homes and high-end commercial projects across the city. Some might view it as just manual labor, but for a young black man like myself, it's about building tangible dreams, providing for my family, and seeing true progress. It pays exceptionally well, and I'm damn good at transforming blueprints into stunning realities. Brianna, on the other hand, worked in the polished, fast-paced world of corporate marketing downtown. When we first started dating, she was captivated by my work. She'd run her hands over my calluses, admiring the strength they symbolized. "How sexy it is that you build actual things with your hands," she'd often tell me, her eyes sparkling. "You're not like those other dudes I've dated. They just stare at spreadsheets all day. You're out there creating something real." She proudly introduced me as her builder boyfriend, even bragging to her girlfriends about how I'd expertly renovated her bathroom in a single weekend. I, in turn, genuinely respected her grind in the corporate world, even if half her synergy and paradigm shift buzzwords sailed over my head. I made good money, more than her actually, so I covered most of our expenses, from upscale dinners to weekend getaways, and even helped chip away at her student loans. It felt like a strong, mutually respectful partnership. 3 months ago, I got down on one knee. She said yes, tears of joy streaming down her face, and immediately posted a flurry of ring pictures on Instagram. Everything felt perfect, the kind of love story you'd watch on screen. Then came that infamous dinner party at Jasmine's swanky uptown apartment. It was one of those upper-middle-class gatherings where everyone subtly, or not so subtly, vied for supremacy. Who had the most impressive career, the most thrilling stories, the most extravagant vacation plans? I never really enjoyed these events. They felt disconnected from real life. But Brianna wanted me there, so I went. Believing partners support each other. In the week leading up to the party, Brianna had been acting strangely. She constantly brought up her boss, Mr. Sterling, a smooth-talking corporate veteran, urging me to network more and think about my career trajectory. It felt like I was a project she needed to polish for public display. I brushed it off as work stress, but a small unease began to settle in. At the party, I immediately felt out of place among the designer outfits and boardroom banter. Brianna kept a noticeable distance, laughed a little too loudly at others' jokes, and name-dropped her company every 5 minutes, as if trying to validate her existence. I was refilling my drink when I overheard Brianna in the kitchen with Jasmine, our host, and Devin, a slick-looking guy from her office. They were so engrossed, they didn't even notice me. "So, you guys are engaged now, right?" Devin asked, his voice oozing with corporate charm. "What does your fiancé do again?" I instinctively prepared for the usual proud response, how I manage teams, my rise in the industry, maybe even a casual mention of the multi-million-dollar historic district project I'd just wrapped. But instead, Brianna let out this chilling, dismissive laugh I'd never heard. "Oh, Corey? He works construction. You know, hard hat, yelling at guys, digging ditches, that whole thing." Jasmine giggled, as if Brianna had delivered a comedic masterpiece. "Wait, like he's actually out there with the workers in those neon vests?" Brianna nodded, swirling her wine, a condescending smirk on her lips. "Yeah, it's very blue-collar, not exactly executive material," Devin smirked back. "Must be interesting conversations at dinner." "Oh, we don't really talk about his work," Brianna waved dismissively. "It's too basic. Mr. Sterling says, people who do manual labor just don't have the vision to advance." I stood frozen, drink in hand, watching my fiancée tear down everything about me to impress these shallow people. The very job she called sexy was now a source of embarrassment. The betrayal was a sharp, cold jab to the gut. I could have erupted, exposed her right there, but I chose silence. Instead of a scene, I walked into the kitchen casually. "Hey babe, what are we talking about?" I said, sliding my arm around her waist. Brianna stiffened, startled. "Oh, Devin was just asking what you do." I looked Devin directly in the eye, a calm facade masking the turmoil within. "I run construction teams, currently managing a $1 million 0 cents commercial development downtown." An awkward silence stretched. Brianna seemed to shrink. "That's interesting," Devin mumbled, clearly unimpressed. "It's just a job," I shrugged, acting nonchalant. "Pays the bills." They quickly moved on. Brianna squeezed my arm a little too hard. "You didn't need to brag about the budget," she whispered. "Just answering his question, babe," I said, keeping my voice light. For the rest of the night I watched her perform, treating me like an inconvenient secret. I drove us home in silence, the quiet filled with the echoes of her contempt. Brianna didn't even notice. Lying beside her that night, staring at the ceiling, the chilling truth dawned on me. Our relationship was a carefully constructed lie. She wasn't with me for respect. She was with me because I was stable, reliable, her personal ATM and handyman, while she searched for better. And that's when my own plans began to crystallize. Brianna had no idea that my pathetic construction job had already caught the eye of one of the biggest luxury developers on the West Coast. They'd been recruiting me for months for a director of construction operations role. I'd planned to surprise her, but after that night, she didn't deserve to know. She definitely wasn't coming with me. I smiled in the dark, watching her sleep, oblivious that her mask had slipped and she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Hook. The morning after that dinner party, I woke up before her. I'd seen behind her mask. See, I'm not the type of dude who explodes when he's pissed. Never have been. My old man taught me that real power isn't in showing your hand, it's in making your move when no one expects it. And that's exactly what I planned to do. I slipped out of bed, the soft glow of dawn barely piercing through the blinds, and moved silently towards the kitchen. The apartment, usually bustling with Brianna's morning rituals, was peacefully quiet. As the coffee maker hummed to life, my mind raced, replaying every subtle slight, every dismissive comment from the night before. I watched her sleep, so tranquil, utterly unaware that the ground beneath her carefully constructed world was already shifting. This wasn't about rage, it was about calculated precision, a silent dismantling. Every moment of our relationship flashed before me. All those times Brianna had jokingly suggested I look into management roles, away from the dirty work. Her subtle comments about how her college friends were buying vacation homes while I was still swinging hammers. The way she'd changed the subject whenever I talked about my latest project, yet expected me to listen for hours about her marketing buzzwords. The signs had always been there, subtle yet persistent, like a persistent hum you eventually tune out. I just hadn't wanted to see them, blinded by what I believed was mutual respect. What truly burned wasn't just the disrespect, though that was a searing wound. It was the crushing realization that I'd poured everything into this woman. I'd covered most of our expenses, been the steady hand fixing things around her place, even helped her brother move last summer when none of her fancy friends would dirty their hands. I'd been there for every crisis, every late-night call, every time she needed someone solid. And this was how she saw me, some blue-collar loser who wasn't executive material. But confronting her now, I knew it wouldn't make a difference. How do you demand respect from someone who already sees you as inferior? So, I decided on a different path. I'd become the perfect fiancé. When Brianna finally stirred and dragged herself out of bed, a perfect performance was already underway. Breakfast was waiting, the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. I smiled, kissed her forehead, and acted as if the previous night's humiliation had never occurred. She probably assumed I was too simple to catch her thinly veiled insults, and I let her believe exactly that. "You seemed to have fun last night," I said casually, sliding her mug across the counter. "Yeah, it was all right. Did you like my friends?" she mumbled, eyes glued to her phone. "Sure," I lied smoothly. "That Devin guy seems interesting." Her eyes flickered up, momentarily leaving her screen. "Oh yeah, he's pretty successful for his age. Just got promoted to senior manager." "Good for him," I said, keeping my voice neutral, playing the curious admirer. Maybe I could learn something from guys like that. Brianna practically beamed, leaning forward. Absolutely. That's what I've been saying. If you'd network more with professionals instead of just construction guys, you might get some better opportunities. She looked genuinely thrilled, believing her efforts were finally getting through to me, unaware of the deeper game. I nodded thoughtfully as if she'd just dropped some profound wisdom on me, a rare gem of corporate insight. You're probably right. And that set the tone for the next few weeks. I transformed into the eager student, pretending to soak up every piece of corporate advice Brianna and her precious boss, Mr. Sterling, fed me. Mr. Sterling says, "You should read this business book." "Sure thing, babe," I'd reply. Mr. Sterling thinks construction is a dying industry. "Wow, that's interesting," I'd counter, absorbing every word, every subtle dig, meticulously. Mr. Sterling says, real success comes from leveraging other people's labor, not doing the work yourself. Tell me more about Mr. Sterling's philosophy, I'd urge, all while making my moves in silence. The developer, who had been after me for months, had seen my work on a complex commercial build I'd brought in under budget, despite numerous design changes. The offer was insane. Triple my current salary, full benefits, a relocation package, a company vehicle, the work. They wanted me to build and lead their entire West Coast construction division from the ground up. I told the VP of operations, I'm in, but I need 3 weeks to handle some personal matters first. Can we keep this between us? They were more than happy to oblige. 3 weeks to wrap things up here, then straight to California. Brianna's disrespect grew bolder each day, but she had no idea that every dismissive word she uttered only cemented my resolve, sharpening the blade of my quiet departure. Life in the apartment continued its deceptive rhythm. Brianna, emboldened by my feigned eagerness, intensified her guidance, seemingly convinced she was molding me into something more acceptable for her world. Our evenings were punctuated by her scrolling through her phone, casually dropping comments about how I could improve. It was a masterclass in psychological manipulation, a dance of veiled insults and a carefully constructed illusion of her superiority, played out within the comfortable confines of our shared home. Devon's name began to punctuate her sentences with increasing frequency, becoming her go-to example of corporate success and executive material. "Babe, did you see Devon's new Tesla?" she'd inquire, eyes still glued to her screen as we watched TV. "That's the kind of car you could drive if you just consider moving into project management or something." Or, "My friend Melissa's husband just got headhunted by this tech firm. He was just a programmer before, but now he's making decisions." That could be you if you just apply yourself more. Each comparison was a deliberate jab, a subtle reminder of what she perceived I lacked. I just nodded and smiled through it all, playing my part perfectly. I let her believe she was subtly molding me, transforming me into someone acceptable to parade before her friends, but inside a quiet fury simmered, hardening my resolve. I was absorbing every word, not as advice, but as confirmation of her true contempt. The irony was palpable. She thought she was elevating me, while I was meticulously planning to free myself from her suffocating expectation. The true awakening, the moment of undeniable clarity, came one evening. I was supposed to be in the shower, but I'd forgotten my phone and walked back into the bedroom to retrieve it. As I approached, I heard Brianna's voice, low and conspiratorial, on a video call with Jasmine. "I just don't know if I can do it long term, you know," Brianna was saying, her tone laced with a fake reluctance. "Sweet and stable, but there's no ambition there. No drive to be more than he is, although he's been trying lately." Jasmine must have offered some sympathetic platitude. "I know, right?" Brianna continued. "And Devon's been texting me. Nothing inappropriate, just work stuff, but I can tell he's interested. He even asked if I wanted to grab coffee to discuss this marketing proposal." My blood ran cold. The carefully constructed facade of my composure remained, but inside, a chilling realization solidified. So, that's how it was. I wasn't just an embarrassment. I was temporary, a placeholder, a safety net, until something better came along. The image of her carefully planned future, where I existed merely as a stepping stone, burned itself into my mind. This wasn't just about disrespect anymore. It was about outright deception and exploitation. I walked quietly back to the bathroom, the floorboards silent beneath my feet, my mind racing. I turned on the shower, the rushing water a temporary mask for the storm of thoughts. I began planning exactly how I was going to disappear from her life so completely, so irrevocably, that she would never recover. There would be no dramatic confrontations, no shouting matches, just a silent, calculated dismantling of her carefully constructed reality. Once I made the decision to leave, everything snapped into crystal clarity. It was like I'd been wearing foggy safety glasses for years, and suddenly, I could see all I'd been missing. The more I watched Brianna, the more obvious her game became. She wanted the stability I provided while keeping her options wide open, actively cultivating alternatives. She wanted my reliable paycheck, my skills around the house, my unwavering reliability, but she craved the social status and perceived ambition that came with someone like Devon. Too bad for her, she couldn't have both. I began my exit strategy, starting with a meticulous list of every thread I needed to untangle from Brianna's life. When I made the decision to leave, everything snapped into crystal clarity. It was like I'd been wearing foggy safety glasses for years, and suddenly I could see all I'd been missing. Life within the apartment continued its deceptive calm, but for me, the fog had lifted. Every glance at Brianna, every dismissive wave of her hand only sharpened my vision. Her game, once obscured by my affections, was now laid bare. She craved a stability I provided, yet simultaneously cultivated other options. My paycheck, my handyman skills, my unwavering reliability, she wanted them all. But what she truly sought was the perceived status that came with a man like Devon, a man whose career path she deemed executive material. It was a stark choice, and she foolishly believed she could have both worlds. I began meticulously crafting my exit strategy, starting with a simple, yet comprehensive, list of every single thread I needed to untangle from Brianna's life. Our joint finances, the apartment lease, all our shared digital subscriptions, even our vague future plans. Each item required careful handling, a delicate touch to avoid raising any suspicion. My best friend, Rashad, became my sole confidant, the only one who truly understood the quiet storm I was brewing. His garage became my clandestine storage unit, a safe haven for my slowly disappearing belongings. The internal conflict was constant, maintaining the facade of a devoted fiancé while systematically dismantling our shared life. Brianna remained utterly oblivious, a testament to her self-absorption. She was so consumed by her own narrative of improving me that she failed to notice the subtle shifts, the careful redirections. It was a silent battle of wills, her superficiality against my deep-seated resolve. Every polite nod, every feigned interest in her corporate world, was a stroke in my calculated masterpiece of a disappearing act. My first strategic move was financial. I opened a new bank account at a different institution, a clean slate. I then transferred the bulk of my savings there, leaving just enough in our joint account to avoid any immediate red flags. After that, I redirected my direct deposits to the new account, providing a plausible excuse to payroll about weird charges on my old one. Next, I discreetly contacted our landlord, giving him a heads up that I might be taking a job out of state. I casually mentioned that I wasn't sure if we'd be renewing the lease, which was due in about 6 weeks. The landlord was surprisingly understanding, assuring me we could work something out if I needed to break the lease early. I asked him to keep our conversation discreet, citing that I was still sorting things out with Brianna. Meanwhile, my new employers were expediting the paperwork, contracts, detailed relocation packages. I had them send anything physical to Rashad's address, used a personal email Brianna had no access to, and took all calls during my lunch breaks at work, away from prying ears. The offer was even more incredible than I'd initially thought. Performance bonuses, a housing allowance for the first 3 months in San Diego while I found a permanent place, and best of all, complete authority to build their West Coast construction division exactly as I saw fit. This wasn't just an escape plan anymore. It was a profound upgrade. Around 4 weeks after that dinner party, Brianna's interactions with Devon grew increasingly blatant. Suddenly, she needed to work late at least twice a week. Her phone would ding with texts she'd quickly check, a faint smile playing on her lips. One evening, I casually glanced over while she was texting and clearly saw his name at the top of the screen. I didn't say a word, just filed it away as another piece of evidence. That weekend, Brianna, ever the planner, suggested we have dinner with her work friends. "Devon and Jasmine will be there," she said casually, "and maybe a few others. It'll be good for you to network." "Sure," I agreed easily, my internal smirk unseen. "Maybe I can learn something from Devon about corporate advancement." Her face lit up, absolutely beaming. She genuinely believed I was finally buying into her grand vision, becoming the polished man she desperately wanted to parade in front of her high society circle. Little did she know, this compliance was simply the final act in my meticulously orchestrated play. My agreement to the dinner wasn't about networking, it was about observing, gathering final intel, and savoring the delicious irony of the situation. Brianna was convinced her project was a success, that she was molding me into something more acceptable. She had no clue that by this point I had already checked out of the relationship, emotionally and logistically. My focus was purely on the seamless execution of my departure, the perfect final chapter to her carefully constructed narrative. The dinner was just another scene for me to observe, another opportunity to reinforce my decision to leave her clueless world behind. I maintained my calm facade, a perfectly composed mask. I smiled and played along, letting them believe they were so much smarter, so much more successful, because in just 3 short weeks, I'd be gone, and Brianna would realize, with a crushing finality, exactly what she'd lost. The thought was a potent, sweet elixir, fueling my performance. As we were leaving the bistro, Devon pulled Brianna aside for a, quote, I pretended not to notice how their conversation leaned a little too intimate, how his hand lingered on her arm a second too long. It didn't sting anymore. By this point I was emotionally detached, already checked out of that relationship, a mere observer in my own life. In the car on the way home, Brianna couldn't stop gushing about how impressed Devon was with my new attitude. "He thinks you've got potential," she chirped, as if it were the highest compliment in the world. "He said he could see you transitioning into a corporate role with the right guidance." "That's nice of him," I said, keeping my eyes fixed on the road, my voice flat. "Maybe we could have him over for dinner sometime, just the 3 of us. He could give you more specific career advice." I almost lost it then. Was she seriously trying to bring her backup option into our home, a brazen attempt to integrate her plan B into the very fabric of our lives? But I maintained my composure. "Sure," I replied, "if you think it would help." Between Langqua Chung 5. That night, lying next to her in bed, I finalized the last details with my new employer. Start date confirmed, relocation assistance arranged, temporary housing secured. Everything was set. As I watched her scroll through Instagram, completely oblivious to the seismic shift about to occur in her meticulously curated world, I felt a strange mix of anger and profound pity. She truly thought she had it all figured out. She'd keep me as the safe, reliable option while actively exploring possibilities with Devon, stringing me along with empty promises of career help while looking down on everything I'd built. The last 2 weeks of my life with Brianna were like being trapped in some twisted sitcom where I was the only one in on the joke. I was the silent observer, the architect of her impending downfall, and every interaction was a calculated step towards my freedom. My carefully constructed performance of compliance was nearly complete. Brianna, completely oblivious to the ticking clock, began planning our wedding, never once suspecting that by next weekend I'd be settling into my new life, miles away, leaving her shattered world behind. With just a couple of days left before my grand escape, I kicked things into high gear. The apartment, once a symbol of our shared future, now felt like a stage for my final act. Every mundane task became a calculated move, every shared moment a carefully constructed illusion. The air was thick with unspoken goodbyes, a silent countdown to the moment her carefully curated reality would come crashing down. First order of business was our shared digital subscriptions: Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, HBO Max, and all those other digital parasites feeding off my credit card every month. I didn't cancel them. That would have been too obvious, too immediate. Instead, I changed the payment methods to cards that would conveniently expire right after I left. A subtle touch, a delayed detonation, designed to create maximum confusion and inconvenience. It was a small, satisfying act of reclaiming my resources, a prelude to the larger reclaiming of my life. Next up was slowly moving my stuff out without raising suspicion. Brianna wasn't the most observant person to begin with. She once didn't notice I'd shaved my beard for 2 full days, but I still had to be meticulous. I started with the things she never paid attention to anyway: my tools, most of my clothes, important documents, family heirlooms. Each day, I'd take a duffel bag or a box to work that would conveniently end up at my buddy Rashad's garage instead. "Doing some spring cleaning?" Rashad asked with a chuckle as I unloaded yet another box at his place. "Nah, just preparing for the greatest vanishing act since Houdini, minus the water tank," I replied, a dry smirk on my face. Rashad was the only person who knew what was really going down, and even he thought I was being a little cold about it. But then again, Rashad hadn't heard his fiancée mock his entire career and existence to impress some corporate douche in chinos. My inner monologue echoed, reaffirming my resolve. Speaking of the douche in chinos, Devin was becoming an increasingly prominent character in the tragicomedy of my life. Brianna was now texting him constantly, and apparently, he'd become the world's foremost authority on my potential career path. "Devin says you should really consider getting some certifications," Brianna announced one night over dinner, scrolling through her phone instead of looking at me. "Says it would make you more marketable if you ever want to leave the, physical labor behind." Wow. Devin says that, huh? I thought, a silent sneer forming. The same Devin who wouldn't know which end of a hammer to hold? Instead, I nodded thoughtfully and replied, "That's a good idea. I'll look into it." She beamed like she'd just successfully taught a dog a new trick. "Good boy, Corey. You're almost housebroken." The real eye-opener came one evening when I was grabbing my gym bag from the car. I had to park on the street since some genius neighbor decided their rusty project car deserved the covered spot more than my truck. As I walked back, I passed our open bedroom window. Brianna was on a video call with Jasmine and a couple of other friends from her office. I didn't mean to listen in, but when you hear your own name, it's kind of hard not to. "And you should see how he's starting to dress differently," Brianna was saying, her voice brimming with pride like she was discussing a successful science experiment. "I think he's finally understanding that construction is just a stepping stone. He's even reading those career books I got him." The girls on the call made exaggerated ooh sounds. "This is like that show where they make over those clueless guys." One of them squealed. Brianna laughed. "Basically, but seriously, Devin's suggestions have been super helpful. He really gets what Corey needs to do to move up in the world." "Okay, but speaking of Devin," another voice chimed in, "what's going on there? He's clearly into you." "Stop it, it's not like that," Brianna protested, but with that fake reluctance that screamed, "Please keep asking." "He's just being professional and helpful." "Professional, girl. He offered to take you to that leadership conference in his place. That's a 3-day trip to Phoenix." "Whatever. Right now, I'm focused on helping Corey see his potential. It's like a project, taking this rough material and turning it into something presentable." I stood there frozen, gym bag slung over my shoulder, listening to my fiancée discuss me like I was some fixer-upper house she'd bought in a sketchy neighborhood, helping me see my potential. That's rich, coming from someone whose biggest career accomplishment was reorganizing the company's shared Google Drive and acting like a hacker. I walked away before they could spot me, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Nothing like hearing yourself described as a project to confirm you're making the right decision. With 1 week left before my departure, I started dropping subtle hints just to mess with her. Nothing obvious, just little comments that would only make sense in retrospect. "I've been thinking a lot about the future lately," I said casually as we were watching TV. "Oh," Brianna perked up, probably thinking her reformation project was working. Yeah, I think big changes are coming, the kind you can't even imagine, she smiled, completely missing the point. That's great, babe. I knew you'd start seeing things differently. Little did she know that the things I was seeing differently included her, our relationship, and my entire life trajectory. 3 days before I was set to leave, Brianna dropped her own little bomb. So I was thinking we should have dinner with my parents next weekend, she said, scrolling through her phone as usual. Dad's been asking about wedding plans, and I thought maybe we could start discussing dates. The irony, here she was planning our wedding while simultaneously laying groundwork with Devin, completely unaware that by next weekend I'd be settling into my new apartment in San Diego. You definitely don't want to miss what happens next. Comment 1 if you're eager to see what unfolds so I know you're locked in. The night before my departure, I took Brianna out for dinner. One last hurrah at her favorite overpriced downtown spot, the kind where the portions were tiny and the waiters acted like they were doing you a favor by taking your order. It was the perfect, bittersweet farewell. I played the perfect fiancé, attentive, charming, even romantic. I toasted to our future and watched her soak it all up like it was one of those microscopic, meticulously crafted desserts the restaurant specialized in. "What's gotten into you?" she asked, clearly pleased with my performance. "Just feeling grateful," I replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. I was grateful. Grateful that this was the last time I'd have to watch her take 14 photos of her meal for Instagram before actually eating it. The next morning I woke up early and headed out to work. Like any other day, the only difference was that my truck was packed with the last of my belongings. My resignation letter was tucked securely in my pocket, and my one-way ticket to San Diego was already downloaded on my phone. I took one last look at our apartment building in the rearview mirror and felt nothing but profound relief. Just the satisfaction of knowing I was finally taking control of my life. Brianna would wake up in about an hour, completely unaware that she'd just spent her last night with me. She'd go about her day, probably text Devin, make plans with Jasmine, and assume I'd be coming home that evening like always. The silence of the drive was golden, a stark contrast to the impending chaos she was about to face. I'd been gone exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes when my phone started blowing up. I was sitting in an airport lounge waiting for my connecting flight, enjoying the serene feeling of having pulled off the perfect exit when the barrage began. "Corey, where are you? The landlord just called about the lease. Please call me. This isn't funny." Then came the calls, one after another. I silenced my phone and ordered another coffee. Each notification was like confirmation that my plan was working exactly as intended. I wasn't about to interrupt that beautiful process by actually answering. As the calls kept coming, I put my phone on airplane mode and focused on the present. The past was behind me, and Brianna was officially part of that past. When I landed after my first flight and turned my phone back on during the layover, the digital avalanche continued. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, 4 voicemails, and now a new name had joined the mix. Ms. Jenkins, Brianna's mom. Great. The cavalry had been called in. I didn't need to listen to the voicemails to know what they'd say, but I listened to one from Ms. Jenkins. "Corey, Brianna's absolutely beside herself. We don't understand what's happening. Please call us back immediately. This isn't like you." I deleted them all and texted Rashad. "Made it to my first stop. How's it looking on your end?" His response came quickly. "Bro, complete chaos here. Brianna has already been by my place crying. Her mom's calling everyone we know. Brianna's dad even threatened to come find you and set you straight until I pointed out that adults can't leave relationships if they want to." I laughed at that. Mr. Davis had always treated me with barely concealed disdain. "My daughter deserves someone who wears a suit to work," he'd once said within earshot at a family dinner. The irony of him suddenly wanting to track me down wasn't lost on me. "Anyone else been dragged into this yet?" I asked Rashad. "Everyone, man. She's on a full-scale manhunt. Called your boss, your co-workers, even Jamal, that guy you work with. Jamal told her you'd taken a job somewhere else, and she completely lost it. So much for my clean exit. Seems like Brianna was turning this into the drama of the century." Typical. On day 2 of my new life, Rashad sent me a screenshot. Brianna had posted a long dramatic message on Facebook about being worried about me, asking if anyone had seen me, saying this was completely out of character. "She's playing the concerned fiancé card hard," Rashad commented. "The financial reality is clearly starting to hit." "Good," I replied. "That was exactly the point. Let her feel what it's like to have the rug pulled out from under her for once." Rashad's play-by-play continued. "Brianna tried to get into your email for clues, couldn't remember the password, called me asking if I knew it. The Netflix, Hulu, Spotify purge hit today. She posted a whole rant about how some people are so petty they'd cut off streaming services during a crisis. Conveniently forgot to mention she never paid for any of them. She told her work friends you took the engagement ring with you. Funny, since I distinctly remember you saying you left it on the dresser. Think she might have pawned it to make rent?" Each message was another domino falling in Brianna's perfectly arranged life. After 3 days of ignoring all calls and texts, I finally decided to answer one of hers. I wanted her to hear the truth directly from me, just once. My phone lit up with her name for what felt like the 100th time. I took a deep breath and answered. "Corey! Corey, oh my God, where are you? What's going on? The landlord said—" I cut her off, my voice calm and steady. "I heard what you really think about my job, about me." There was silence on the other end for a moment. "What? I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Sure you do, Brianna. He just yells at guys digging ditches all day." "That's what you told your friends, right? That I'm not executive material. That Mr. Sterling says people like me don't have the vision to advance." Another silence, longer this time. "Corey, I was just joking around, you know. I respect what you do." I let out a low chuckle. "Respect? Nah, you wouldn't know respect if it slapped you in the face. But it's cool, because guess what? I just got offered something real nice. The kind of opportunity people like you and your precious Devin could only dream of." "What do you mean?" she asked, voice trembling. "Let's just say my new view includes a penthouse office overlooking the ocean, a custom ride with my name on the lease, and more money than you and your little corporate buddies could ever throw at a dinner bill. They chased me for months, because when you're actually good at what you do, you don't need to pretend to be something you're not." "But you wouldn't understand that, would you?" I heard her gasp. "You what? Corey, why didn't you tell me? We could have..." "Could have what? You could have suddenly decided my career was worthy of respect? That I wasn't just some project for you to fix? That's not how respect works, Brianna. Please." Her voice cracked. "Just tell me where you are. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about. You showed me who you really are, and I believe you. Oh, and you might want to start looking for a new place. The lease is up next week. Goodbye, Brianna." I hung up and blocked her number for good. It felt like closing the final chapter of a book I was done reading. Rashad texted me later that day, "Dude, Brianna's a complete wreck after you called her. She showed up at my place again, crying so hard I could barely understand her. Something about you getting some big promotion. Said you were punishing her for a stupid comment. Also, get this, Devin won't even look at her at work now. Heard from a buddy that works there that he straight up ignored her in a meeting when she tried to talk to him. Then he posted pics from some club with another girl from their office. Brutal timing." I couldn't help but smirk. Brianna had been hedging her bets, keeping me around as the safe option while Devin was the exciting possibility. Now, she had neither. Then Mr. Davis, Brianna's dad, called. I let it go to voicemail, but what he said actually made me pause. "Corey, look, Brianna told us what happened about that dinner, what she said about your work. I need to admit I might have contributed to how she saw things. I've always pushed her to find someone in a suit and tie like me. That was wrong. She's a mess, son. Had to move back home because she can't afford the apartment. Can't you two at least talk?" "Too little, too late, Mr. Davis," I thought. Maybe if you'd shown some respect for my line of work earlier, things might have been different. I didn't respond, but I did check social media once just to see how things were playing out. Brianna's status had changed from taken to nothing. Her usual stream of perfect life photos had stopped completely. According to Rashad, the real-world situation was even worse. Her parents showed up with a U-Haul yesterday to move her stuff out. None of her friends helped, not even Jasmine. Speaking of that snake, Jasmine had the nerve to message me, asking if you and I still hang out. Said she always thought you could do better than Brianna. These people are something else. Every update from Rashad made me laugh my ass off. It became my favorite part of the day. Rashad sent one more update a week later that painted the complete picture. Ran into Brianna's sister at the store. Apparently, Brianna got taken off that big marketing project at work because she's been too emotional lately. Had to watch Devin give the presentation she'd been working on for months. She's applying for transfers to other branches, basically trying to disappear from her own life. The irony wasn't lost on me. Brianna's carefully constructed social facade had crumbled. The fancy friends she'd tried to impress had abandoned her. The backup plans she'd been cultivating had ghosted her. The financial stability she'd taken for granted was gone. Everything she'd valued more than our relationship had fallen apart. Through all this, I completely rebuilt my life. My new office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, my name on the door as Director of Construction Operations, 15 project managers reporting to me, overseeing sites across Southern California. Not bad for a guy who just yells at ditch diggers. What surprised me most wasn't the job, it was how I felt. No second guessing, no justifying myself, just freedom. Rashad flew out to visit one weekend after a couple of months. We grilled on my balcony. "You sure you don't want to know what's happening with Brianna?" he asked. I shook my head. That chapter's closed. But Rashad couldn't help himself. She's still with her parents. Started seeing some financial advisor her dad introduced her to. I was surprised by how little I cared. It was like hearing about a stranger. Was my exit cold? Maybe heartless, some would say, but I call it self-respect. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't making a scene or hurling accusations. Sometimes it's looking someone in the eye, or, in this case, telling them over the phone exactly what they lost. Brianna had told her friends I had no ambition, that I would never be more than a construction worker. She compared me to Devin and Mr. Sterling and found me lacking. She treated me like a project to be fixed, rather than a partner to be respected. Well, she got exactly what she wanted, a fiancé with ambition. I took my ambition and directed it exactly where it belonged, toward building a better life for myself without her. And all it took was walking away.